It was 2 p.m. on a Monday. Sarah Miller climbed the mansion's sweeping staircase, carrying her cleaning supplies and listening to a sound that cut her to the bone. The desperate crying of 2 babies echoing through the massive house. At 25, Sarah had worked as a cleaner in this mansion for 3 weeks, but she never got used to the suffering. The twins had been crying for 3 straight hours today. Yesterday it was 5, the day before 6. "My God, these children," she whispered, stopping on the stairs to wipe the sweat from her brow. Richard Ferraro appeared in the hallway, looking like a lost man of 34. This millionaire businessman seemed to have aged 10 years in the past few weeks. His eye bags were deep, his hair a mess, and he walked like a ghost. "Susan!" He called for the housekeeper, who came running. "It's been over 2 months since they've slept properly." "Over 2 months, Susan." Susan, a woman in her 50s who'd worked for the family for 20 years, shook her head with pity. She always noted everything she saw in the house in an old notebook. "Sir, you need to rest too. You can't keep going like this. Rest?" Richard gave a humorless laugh. "How can I rest listening to my daughters cry like this?" "What kind of father am I, Susan?" Sarah paused on the staircase. The pain in that man's voice got to her. She had lost a baby a year ago, at 4 months of gestation. She knew well what it was like to see a child suffering. Richard grabbed the phone with trembling hands. "Doctor, it's Richard Ferraro again. I know I called this morning, but my daughters are terrible. There has to be something you can do." The voice on the phone said something that made Richard even more agitated. "What do you mean you don't know what else to do? We've had pediatricians, neurologists, baby specialists. I've spent more money than I have, and nothing helps." He hung up and slammed his fist against the wall. "Richard!" Susan rushed to him. "You can't hurt yourself too." "It's useless, Susan. I really am a useless father. I can't even get my own daughters to stop crying." Sarah watched, her heart aching. She had never seen a man so utterly destroyed. His pain was real, raw, soul-deep. The twins' crying grew even louder from the bedroom. Lily and Chloe, 3 months old, were fighting something nobody could understand. "If they don't get better soon, I can't take it anymore," Richard whispered, his voice choked. PM. Richard ran out of the house carrying both babies in their strollers. "I'm going to the hospital again," he yelled to Susan. "They have a fever from all the crying." The mansion gate closed and the house was finally silent. Sarah sighed with relief, not for the work, but because those little girls had a moment of peace. "Poor things," she murmured, finishing the climb to clean the upstairs. When she reached the twins' bedroom door, she stopped. The air still smelled of baby mixed with medicine, 2 small cribs, pink and blue decorations, and toys that were never used because the girls never stopped crying long enough to play. Sarah knew she shouldn't go in. Richard was very strict about who could touch his daughter's room, but something pulled her inside. She picked up a small pink outfit with bunny designs, hugged it to her chest, and closed her eyes. The memory of the baby she lost hit her like a knife. "My little angel," she whispered. "If you had been born, you'd be their age." An hour and a half later, the sound of the gate jolted her from her daydream. Richard was coming back. Sarah rushed to leave the room, but she stumbled against the dresser and knocked over a perfume bottle. "Oh my God!" She knelt to pick up the pieces when she heard footsteps on the stairs. "The doctors don't know what else to do." Richard shouted to Susan. "They said they're healthy, but they won't stop crying." He entered the room carrying Lily. The baby was red from crying. Her face was swollen, her little fists clenched. "Daddy doesn't know what to do, my little girl," he whispered, rocking her gently. "Daddy is lost." Chloe in the stroller was also screaming, a high-pitched sound that pierced the ear. That's when something inexplicable happened. Sarah, still crouched and gathering the broken glass, looked at Lily and, without thinking, held out her arms. "Can I hold her for a minute?" Richard, on the brink of exhaustion, didn't think twice. He placed the baby in Sarah's arms. The silence was immediate. Lily stopped crying as if someone had flipped a switch. Her swollen eyes opened and fixed on Sarah's face. A curious, peaceful look that left Richard speechless. Chloe in the stroller also stopped crying. She turned her head towards her sister and Sarah, as if understanding that something had changed. "It's okay, little one," Sarah whispered, rocking Lily slowly. "What was bothering you?" The baby closed her eyes, and for the first time in over 2 months truly fell asleep. "I don't believe it." Richard took Chloe from the stroller. The girl immediately calmed down when he brought her close to Sarah. "How did you do that?" "I don't know, Mr. Ferraro. I just felt I needed to hold her." Susan appeared at the door and nearly fainted. "Oh my heavens, how did you manage that? These girls don't stop crying even when they're asleep." But Richard was already seeing it. He was witnessing the impossible happen right before his eyes. "Sarah," he whispered, "I've been looking for an answer for 3 months. I spent a fortune on doctors. And you just—" "They're sleeping," Sarah finished, her eyes teary. Truly sleeping. The three stood there in silence, watching the twins sleep peacefully for the first time. Lily in Sarah's arms, Chloe in her father's lap, but right next to the cleaner. That's when they heard determined footsteps on the stairs, footsteps that made everyone's blood run cold. "Richard!" A female voice echoed down the hallway. "I'm here for the girls' checkup." Dr. Cassandra Drummond appeared at the bedroom door like someone who always took charge. At 38, she was the type who commanded respect just by entering a room. White lab coat without a single stain, hair pulled back in a perfect bun, and the upright posture of someone who never loses control. "Richard?" "How are the girls?" She stopped mid-sentence when she saw the scene. The twins were sleeping. Richard was smiling for the first time in months, and a cleaner was holding Lily as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Cassandra," Richard whispered, trying not to wake the babies. "You won't believe it. They finally slept. Sarah got them to sleep." Cassandra's smile froze on her face. She had been taking care of this family for 3 years. 3 years of building a relationship, waiting for the right moment to get closer to him in a more intimate way. And now, some random cleaner shows up and does what she, a qualified doctor, couldn't. "Richard," she said, her voice controlled. "Can I speak with you for a minute in the hall?" "But Cassandra, look, they're so peaceful. In the hall, please." Richard sensed the serious tone and signaled Sarah to stay with the babies. He left the room following the doctor. "Richard, do you realize what just happened?" Cassandra spoke quietly but with controlled anger. "What?" "She got my daughters to sleep, Cassandra. For the first time in 3 months. And do you know this woman's background? Do you know if she has any illness? Do you know if she did something dangerous?" Richard frowned. He hadn't thought of that. "Cassandra, she just took Lily in her arms and—" "Richard, I've been a pediatrician for 15 years. I know how risky these situations can be. 3-month-old babies are very fragile. Anything wrong could cause a serious problem. But they're fine, Cassandra. Look how soundly they're sleeping, for now. But what if it's some chemical effect? What if she put something on their skin? What if it's something that will be harmful later?" Cassandra's words planted a seed of doubt in Richard's exhausted mind. He had always trusted what she said. Cassandra had saved the twins when they were born prematurely. She was a respected professional, a friend of the family for years. Inside the room, Sarah rocked Lily, who was fast asleep. Susan watched Chloe, who was also resting peacefully in the stroller. "Miss," Susan whispered, "how did you do it?" "I don't know, Mrs. Susan. I just felt I had to help. In 20 years of working here, I've never seen anything like it. These girls don't stop crying even when they're sleeping. And now look," she pointed at the truly sleeping babies. "Calm breathing, relaxed faces, open little hands. It's a miracle indeed," Susan finished. In the hallway, Cassandra continued to plant doubts. "Richard, I understand your desperation, but as a doctor, I can't let an untrained person have direct contact with such small babies. It's a matter of responsibility. Just imagine if something happens to them, if they develop an allergy, an infection. You would never forgive yourself. And as the responsible doctor, neither would I." Richard ran a hand through his hair. The exhaustion wouldn't let him think clearly. "What do you think I should do?" "That she should no longer have direct contact with the girls, for their own good. In the meantime, I'll adjust their medication." Perhaps that's what was missing. Inside the room, Sarah felt a shiver. Something wasn't right. Lily stirred a little in her arms but continued to sleep. "Mrs. Susan," she whispered, "does the doctor always give the girls medicine?" "Every day, dear. She says it's to calm them down, but it never really worked." "And today?" "Did she give it today?" "Not yet. She just arrived," Sarah thought about it. "The twins had fallen asleep without any medicine. Just with kindness, just with her touch." That's when Richard returned to the room, his face stern. Sarah, he said softly. Thank you for your help, but Dr. Drummond is right. It's best if you don't handle the girls anymore. Sarah's heart broke. But Mr. Ferraro, they're fine. I know, but it could be dangerous. You're not a doctor. It might have been luck, or it might have been something that will cause harm later. The growing doubt. Sarah gently placed Lily back in her crib. The baby continued to sleep soundly. I understand, Mr. Ferraro, she said, but her eyes conveyed everything. She didn't understand at all. She knew she had helped those children, and now she was being pushed away for it. Cassandra walked into the room with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I'll administer the girls' medication now, she announced, pulling 2 syringes from her medical bag. They're sleeping, Doctor, Susan commented. That's precisely why. It's the best time to apply the medicine. They will sleep even deeper. Sarah watched the exchange, a growing discomfort in her chest. Something about those syringes didn't feel right. Excuse me, she said softly and slipped out of the room. In the hallway, she heard Cassandra speaking under her breath, more to herself. She almost ruined everything. Tuesday, the reversal, Tuesday, 6 a.m. Sarah arrived at work with a heavy heart. The entire weekend, she hadn't stopped thinking about the twins. Had they slept? Were they okay? When she entered the mansion, she heard exactly what she expected and feared. The crying. Lily and Chloe were crying in their room, louder and more desperately than before. It was as if they had reverted to their previous state, only worse. They barely slept at all this weekend, Susan commented when she saw Sarah. Richard is destroyed again. And the doctor's medicine? She increased the dosage. Said it was necessary to compensate for what happened on Friday. Sarah frowned. Compensare? Why would she need to compensate for the fact that the twins had finally slept? At 7 o'clock sharp, Dr. Cassandra arrived. Today she was different, more determined, more serious. Where is the cleaner? She asked Susan. She's tidying the living room, Doctor. Call her here. I need to talk. Sarah climbed the stairs, her heart racing. Cassandra was waiting in the hallway, arms crossed, with an unfriendly look. Sarah, right? Yes, Doctor. I need to make one thing crystal clear. You absolutely cannot touch the children in this house. They are fragile, premature babies. Any wrong contact can cause a severe infection. But, Doctor, I was only helping. You didn't help anything. You created a problem. The girls were agitated all weekend because their bodies were altered. Altered by what? Cheap perfumes, cleaning products, bacteria. You work cleaning houses, right? Your hands carry germs that can be dangerous for babies. Every word from Cassandra was like a slap in Sarah's face. The doctor spoke with an authority that left no room for questioning. Do you understand? Do not touch the children, and do not enter their room. If I find out you disobeyed, I will tell Mr. Ferraro to dismiss you immediately. Yes, Doctor. Good. Now, I'm going to take care of my patients. Cassandra entered the twins' room and closed the door. Sarah stood in the hallway, humiliated and confused. Had she really done something wrong? Had she hurt the babies by accident? On the other side of the door, Cassandra pulled a syringe from her bag, but it wasn't the same one Richard had seen. This one was different, with a clear liquid that was anything but a sedative. Now we'll fix this little problem, she whispered, putting the contents into Lily's bottle. The liquid was a mild stimulant that was tasteless but kept babies agitated for hours. Cassandra had been using small doses for 3 months since the twins were born. Her plan was simple: keep the children dependent on her medicine, make herself indispensable to Richard, and at the right time, discover the cure and marry him out of gratitude. But on Friday, some random cleaner had almost destroyed 3 years of planning. Today, Cassandra doubled the dose. The twins would have a terrible week, and when she adjusted the medication again, Richard would throw himself at her feet in gratitude. There, my little ones, she whispered to the babies. Daddy will see that only Aunt Cassandra can take care of you. Lily and Chloe unknowingly drank the spiked bottles. In 1 hour, the effect would begin. In 2 hours, they would be screaming like never before. In the hallway, Sarah cleaned the floor, listening to the cries that were already growing louder. Her heart clenched, but she couldn't do anything. She was forbidden. At 10 o'clock, Richard arrived from the office and found his daughters in a crisis worse than all the others. Cassandra, he shouted into the phone. They are terrible. What medicine did you give them? Calm down, Richard, it's normal. Their systems were altered due to the contact on Friday. Now I'm correcting it. It will get worse before it gets better. It will get worse, unfortunately. Yes, but trust me. I've been a doctor for 15 years. I know what I'm doing. Richard hung up the phone and collapsed into the armchair in the room. The twins had been crying for 4 straight hours. It was Tuesday, and they hadn't slept properly since Sunday. They're going to die if this continues, he whispered to himself, his voice thick with despair. In the hallway, Sarah heard everything, and tears ran down her face. She knew she could help. She knew the twins would calm down in her arms, but she was forbidden to touch them. That's when she noticed something that left her even more puzzled. In the bathroom trash can, she saw an empty bottle of children's sedative, the same medicine the doctor said she had given the girls. If she gave them the sedative, Sarah thought, why is the empty bottle in the trash? And why are the girls worse? The seed of suspicion began to grow in Sarah's heart. Something wasn't right. What if the person who was supposed to be caring for the twins was actually harming them? The baby's cries echoed through the mansion like a scream for help. A scream that only Sarah seemed to understand but was forbidden to answer. They're going to die if this continues, Richard yelled into the phone to Cassandra. And for the first time, Sarah wondered, is that exactly the intention? Wednesday, the Alliance Wednesday noon. Sarah was working downstairs in the mansion, listening to the twins crying, which hadn't stopped for 8 straight hours. It was a soul-piercing sound, especially because she knew she could help. Susan appeared in the kitchen with her little notebook in hand and a worried expression. Miss, can I talk to you? Of course, Mrs. Susan. I find what's happening very strange. The girls only got better when you took care of them on Friday. Then, on the weekend, they were worse than ever. Sarah stopped cleaning and looked at the housekeeper. You thought it was strange, too. And there's something else. Susan looked around to make sure no one was listening. I've worked here for 20 years. I've never seen a baby cry this much. So it's not normal. No, it's not. And another thing that caught my attention, Susan continued. The doctor comes here every day now, but before the girls were born, she only showed up when the boss called. Sarah's heart raced. She wasn't crazy. Something was indeed wrong. Mrs. Susan, you write everything down in that little notebook, right? I do. It's an old habit of mine. I note who comes, who leaves, what time. Can you tell me what time the doctor arrived and what time the girls started crying worse? Susan opened the notebook and flipped through the pages. Look here. Monday, the doctor arrived at 7, gave the medicine at 7:30. The girls started screaming like crazy at 8:30. And yesterday, Tuesday, the doctor arrived at 7, gave the medicine at 7:15. And the girls started going crazy at 8:15. Always 1 hour after the medicine. Always. But that must be normal, right? Sometimes medicine takes time to take effect, Sarah frowned. If the medicine is supposed to calm them, why do the twins get worse afterward? Mrs. Susan, did you see what medicine the doctor throws in the trash? What do you mean? I saw empty bottles of children's sedative in the bathroom trash. If she is giving the babies a sedative, why are the bottles empty in the trash? Susan became pensive. Now that you mention it, that is kind of strange. Why would she throw away medicine she hadn't used? That's when they heard quick footsteps on the stairs. Richard ran down, his hair messy, his shirt crumpled. Susan, where is Cassandra? I called her, but she's not answering. She hasn't arrived yet today, sir. The girls have been screaming for 8 hours. 8 hours, Susan! They're going to have a seizure if this continues. Sarah's chest tightened, seeing his desperation. Mr. Ferraro, she said softly. May I suggest something? What? What if you tried not giving the medicine today, just to see if it makes a difference? Richard looked at her as if she had suggested madness. Sarah, they are like this precisely because they need the medicine. Cassandra explained that their system is, what did she call it, altered. But what if it's not that? What if the medicine is what's making them sick? Sarah! Richard raised his voice. Cassandra is a qualified doctor. She knows what she's doing. Sarah lowered her head, but the suspicion in her mind only grew. The phone rang, and Richard rushed to answer. Cassandra, thank God! You need to get here urgently. The girls are terrible. Calm down, Richard. I'll be there in half an hour. In the meantime, you can give them one more dose of the medicine. It's in the fridge. Richard went to the kitchen and opened the fridge. He took out a bottle with clear liquid. "Susan, come help me give the babies the medicine." Sarah observed everything and made a decision. She had to find out what was really going on. At 2 p.m., she positioned herself at the living room window, pretending to clean the glass. From there, she could see the twins' room upstairs. 15 minutes later, Cassandra arrived. Sarah noted that she didn't look as worried as she should. In fact, she looked almost relieved. From the window, Sarah could see Cassandra entering the twins' room. She watched, and what she saw sent a chill down her spine. Cassandra did not examine the babies, did not check their temperature, did not listen to their hearts. Nothing. She simply took something out of her medical bag and applied it to the bottles, telling good stories. Chapter 3. The Trap. "Mrs. Susan," Sarah whispered softly. "Come see something." Susan approached the window. "What is it?" "Look up there." "The doctor isn't examining the girls, she's just messing with the bottles." Susan watched and frowned. "That's strange. A doctor should examine them before giving medicine." At that moment, they saw Cassandra leaving the room and talking to Richard in the hallway. They couldn't hear, but by his expression she was reassuring him about something. "Mrs. Susan, when the doctor leaves, can you show me the medicine she left?" "I can." An hour later, Cassandra left the house. Susan and Sarah went up to the twins' room. "Look here!" Susan showed the bottle in the mini fridge in the room. "This is what she always leaves." Sarah took the bottle and read the label. "Natural children's sedative." She read it aloud. "But look at this, Mrs. Susan." She showed the back of the bottle. "The seal is broken. Someone opened and closed it again. How do you know?" "I've worked cleaning houses for years. I learned to notice these things. Someone tampered with this bottle." Susan looked closer. "You're right. The cap is slightly crooked." That's when they heard a different kind of crying coming from the cribs. Lily and Chloe were starting to get agitated again. "1 hour after the medicine," Sarah whispered. "Exactly as you wrote down." "My God," Susan whispered. "Do you think, Mrs. Susan, can you do something for me?" "What?" "Tomorrow, when the doctor comes, pretend you forgot something in the room and stay to observe her messing with the medicine, but without her realizing it. And if she finds out, then we'll know for sure that something is seriously wrong." Thursday, the hidden camera. Thursday, 6:30 a.m. Sarah arrived for work, anxious to know how the twins had spent the night. Susan greeted her at the door with a relieved expression. "Miss, I'm glad you arrived. How was the night?" "The boss didn't give the medicine last night." "And you know what happened? What?" "The girls slept for 6 straight hours." 6 hours. The first time in months. Sarah felt a mix of relief and confirmation of her suspicions. And this morning they're still sleeping, but the doctor arrived half an hour ago. "She's upstairs. Did you manage to observe her?" "I did. And you won't believe what I saw." Susan pulled Sarah into a corner of the kitchen and whispered. She took a syringe from her bag and applied something to the medicine bottle. "Something she brought from outside. Are you sure?" "Absolutely." I saw her puncturing the bottle cap with the syringe and injecting a clear liquid. "My God, and there's more!" After she applied it, she tested a drop on her own tongue. Tested it to see if it had a taste. I saw her make a face of approval, as if she was checking that it couldn't be detected. Sarah's blood ran cold. A doctor wouldn't need to test medicine on her tongue unless she was mixing something that shouldn't be there. "Mrs. Susan, we need to talk to Mr. Ferraro. He won't believe us, so we need more proof." That's when they heard footsteps coming down the stairs. Cassandra appeared in the kitchen with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Good morning, everyone. The girls are doing great today, sleeping like angels." "That's good, doctor," Susan replied, trying to hide her concern. "I'll leave the usual medicine. You can apply it every 4 hours." Cassandra left the house, but this time Sarah paid attention to something she hadn't noticed before. The doctor was carrying 2 bags, the official medical bag and a small thermal bag. "Mrs. Susan, did you see that thermal bag?" "Yes, I did. Does a doctor take a thermal bag to a patient's house?" "Not that I know of. Normal medicine doesn't need special refrigeration." Richard appeared in the kitchen, looking much better than he had in recent days. "Susan, I can't believe the girls slept all night." "They did, boss." "That's great, right?" "Cassandra said it's because the new medicine is working." Sarah and Susan exchanged glances. They knew it wasn't the medicine that worked. It was the lack of it, Mr. Ferraro, Sarah risked saying. Don't you find it strange that they only got better when they didn't take the medicine last night? But they did take it. Cassandra adjusted the formula, but Richard stopped and thought, You're right, I didn't give it. I completely forgot, I was so tired. And they got better. Coincidence? Mr. Ferraro, Susan joined the conversation. May I say something? Of course. In 20 years of working here, I've learned to observe. And there are some things that are drawing my attention. What things? The doctor always messes with the medicine before leaving it here, and the girls always get worse exactly 1 hour after taking it. Richard frowned. Susan, are you suggesting that? I'm not suggesting anything, boss. I'm just saying what I see. At that moment, the twins' crying started again upstairs. Lily and Chloe woke up and were already getting agitated. There, Richard sighed. I'm going to give them the medicine. Mr. Ferraro, Sarah said quickly. What if we tried one more time without giving it? Just to be sure? Sarah, please. Just for today. If they get much worse, you give the medicine right away. Richard was torn. On one side, Cassandra's medical advice. On the other, the evidence of his own eyes. All right, but if they get very sick, I'll give the medicine. Sarah felt hope growing in her chest. Perhaps today they would discover the truth. At 10 a.m., something extraordinary happened. The twins, who woke up crying, gradually calmed down on their own, without medicine, without intervention, just with their father's affection and normal care. I don't believe it, Richard whispered, looking at his calm daughters. Do you believe now that there's something wrong with that medicine? Sarah asked. Richard was about to answer when the phone rang. Hello, Cassandra, thank God. How are the girls? Are they well? Great. Did you give the medicine on time? Richard looked at Sarah and Susan, who shook their heads no. Yes, I did. Perfect. I'll be there this afternoon to see how they're reacting to the new treatment. When Richard hung up, Sarah realized he had lied to Cassandra. Why did you lie? Because I want to be sure of something before accusing a doctor of what you two are thinking. And how will we be sure? Richard was silent for a moment. We're going to test the medicine, the interception Thursday, 2 p.m. Richard, Sarah, and Susan were in the kitchen, looking at the medicine bottle Cassandra had left. How are we going to test this? Richard asked. My brother is a pharmacy technician, Susan said. He can analyze it without anyone knowing. But that will take time. There's another way, Sarah interrupted. We can see how the girls react with and without the medicine throughout the day. How so? Simple. We divide the day into 2 periods. In the morning, they go without the medicine. In the afternoon, when the doctor arrives, we give the medicine and see the difference. Richard considered the proposal. What if they get sick? Then we stop immediately and call another doctor. All right, let's try it. Throughout the morning, the twins remained calm, went to the bathroom normally, fed without problems, and slept when they should sleep. The behavior of healthy babies. At 2:30, Cassandra arrived for her afternoon visit. How are my little patients? Fine, Richard replied, observing her intently. Great. The medicine is working perfectly. Then, Cassandra went up to the twins' room. Richard, Sarah, and Susan stayed downstairs waiting. Half an hour later, Cassandra came down. There I applied the afternoon dose. They will be very calm now. As soon as Cassandra left the house, the 3 ran upstairs to the room. The twins were in the crib, apparently normal, but Richard noticed something. Look at their eyes. Lily and Chloe had eyes wider than normal, slightly glazed, as if they were seeing things that didn't exist. Is this normal? Richard asked. No, Sarah replied. A normal baby doesn't have that look. 15 minutes later, like clockwork, the crying began. But it wasn't a normal baby cry. It was the desperate cry of someone who was feeling something bad. Now I'm sure, Richard said, his voice trembling with anger. She is poisoning my daughters. What are we going to do? Susan asked. We're going to prove it. Richard grabbed the phone and called a private doctor he knew. Dr. Austin, it's Richard Ferraro. I need you to come to my house urgently to examine my daughters. No, it's not an emergency, but it's important. Can you come today? While Richard was on the phone, Sarah heard a strange noise in the garden. She looked out the window and saw Cassandra standing behind the tree, observing the house. "Mrs. Susan," she whispered. "Look outside." Susan looked and went pale. "She's spying on us. Why?" "Because she knows we found something out." At that moment, Richard hung up the phone. "Dr. Austin will be here at 4 o'clock. We will know exactly what is in the girl's blood." But they didn't know that Cassandra had heard everything from the open window and that she was already planning her next move. At 3:45 p.m., 15 minutes before Dr. Austin arrived, the phone rang. "Richard, this is the local police station. We received a serious complaint about your house." "What kind of complaint?" "Someone reported that one of your employees is giving controlled medication to your daughters without a medical prescription." Richard froze. "That's a lie, officer. We need to come over and verify. It's protocol, but we are on our way." Richard hung up the phone and looked at Sarah and Susan, desperate. "Someone reported us." "Who?" Sarah asked, but deep down, she already knew the answer. 20 minutes later, 2 police cars stopped in front of the mansion. 4 police officers went up to the twins' room, where they found Richard, Sarah, and Susan taking care of the crying babies. "Who is the employee responsible for the children's medical care?" the sergeant asked. "No one," Richard replied. "They are cared for by a doctor. We have information that this woman," he pointed to Sarah, "has been administering medication without authorization. That is a lie." That's when Cassandra appeared at the doorway, accompanied by another police officer. "Sergeant, as I reported by phone, I found evidence that this employee has been drugging the children." She opened her medical bag and retrieved a bottle of controlled medication. "I found this hidden in her belongings." Sarah was in shock. "That is not mine. I've never seen that bottle in my life. And I also found this." Cassandra showed a piece of paper, her notes on medication dosages. Richard took the paper from the officer's hand. It was a fake medical prescription with treatment protocols for Lily and Chloe, signed by Dr. Sarah Miller. "Sarah," Richard whispered. "How could you?" "Mr. Ferraro, I swear I never wrote that. I don't even know how to write a prescription. I'm not a doctor." "Ma'am," the sergeant said, "you need to come with us for questioning." "No. I'm innocent. She planted those things. She set me up." But as Sarah was led away, Cassandra approached Richard. "I'm sorry, Richard. I know you trusted her, but I couldn't let your daughters be at risk." Richard looked at the twins, who continued to cry, and then at Cassandra, who now seemed to be the only person he could rely on. He didn't notice the discreet smile of satisfaction on the doctor's face. Friday. Public shame. Friday, 8 a.m. Sarah woke up in a cold police cell after a night that felt endless. She had spent hours trying to explain to the investigators that she was the victim of a setup, but no one believed her. "Miller, visitor," the officer yelled. She got up, expecting to see Richard or maybe Dr. Austin, who could confirm her innocence. But it was her mother, Mrs. Martha Santos, her face red with shame and rage. "Mom," Sarah whispered. "Don't call me Mom." Mrs. Santos exploded. "How could you do such a thing? Poisoning small children." "Mom, I didn't do anything." "The doctor framed me." "Stop lying. It was in the newspaper, on television." "Everyone on our street knows you forged medical prescriptions." Sarah felt the world crash down. If her own mother didn't believe her, who would? "Mom, please, just listen to me for a minute." "I don't want to listen to anything." "You've shamed our family. Your brothers can't even leave the house. As far as I'm concerned, you're dead. I don't want to see your face again." Mrs. Santos stormed out, slamming the door. Sarah collapsed onto the cell floor and cried harder than she ever had. In the middle of the afternoon, the public defender arrived to talk to her. He was a tired man who seemed to have seen many identical cases. "Sarah, I'll be direct with you. The situation is complicated. They have physical evidence against you, but I'm innocent. Look, forging a medical prescription is a serious felony. It can lead to 2 to 8 years in prison. Someone planted those things. The doctor set up the whole thing. Do you have proof?" Sarah was silent. How could she prove anything from inside a cell? "And the children?" she asked. "How are they?" "That's not my area. My job is to defend you from the crime you allegedly committed." "Allegedly?" "Well, technically you're still innocent until judged, but the evidence—" He didn't need to finish the sentence. Sarah understood that even her own lawyer didn't believe her. That night, an older inmate approached her in the cell. "First time here? Hope it's your last." "Everybody says that." "What's your crime?" "They say I forged a medical prescription to drug babies." The woman gave a look of disgust. "Messing with kids is serious business in here." "If you really did that, I didn't." "I love those children more than life itself." "Then someone really screwed you." And did it well. Sarah spent another sleepless night thinking about Lily and Chloe. Were they crying again? Had Cassandra gone back to giving the stimulants? Had Richard noticed anything? Saturday. The crisis, Saturday morning. The news she most feared arrived through a guard. "Miller, those babies you poisoned were hospitalized this morning." Sarah's heart stopped. "What? They're in the pediatric ICU. Seizures, high fever." "Doctors think it was an overdose of the medicine you gave them." Sarah screamed and rushed to the cell bars. "No, I didn't give them any medicine." "Let me out! I need to talk to someone. Quiet down. You're not going anywhere. They're going to die. You don't understand. The doctor is killing them." But no one listened. To everyone there, she was just another criminal trying to escape responsibility. Sarah threw herself onto the cell floor, sobbing. Lily and Chloe were dying, and the person who could save them was locked in a jail cell. Outside, in the hospital corridors, Richard paced back and forth like a madman. His daughters were hooked up to machines, fighting for their lives. "How did this happen, Cassandra?" He asked for the 10th time. "Richard, I warned you." The cleaner had been drugging them for weeks. Their system accumulated the substance, and now they are having a reaction. But they were getting better. That was the drug's effect. Now that we stopped giving it, their body is going through withdrawal. Richard accepted the explanation because he had no other option. Cassandra was a doctor. She knew what she was talking about. What he didn't know was that at this very moment, Cassandra was applying even larger doses of stimulants to the twins. Her plan was simple: make the babies so sick that he would marry her out of desperation and gratitude when she finally cured them. In prison, Sarah received more devastating news. "Miller, your case has gone national. You're the most hated woman in the country now." And it was true. The story of the cleaner who poisoned a businessman's twin babies was running on every TV channel. Her picture was in every newspaper and website. Protests formed outside the police station, demanding justice. "Baby killer!" someone shouted from the street. "Lock her up!" Sarah huddled in the corner of her cell. Her life had become a public hell, while the true culprit was treated like a hero for trying to save the children. But the worst part was knowing that while she rotted in a cell, Lily and Chloe were dying in the arms of the person who was truly poisoning them. "God," she whispered in the dark cell. "If you really exist, protect those children. They don't deserve this." And by some miracle across town, someone was starting to ask questions Cassandra didn't expect. Sunday. A crack in the foundation. Sunday. 6 a.m. At St. Joseph's Hospital, Richard hadn't left his daughter's side for 36 hours. Lily and Chloe were in the pediatric ICU with monitors showing worrying signs. A fever that wouldn't break and small seizures that came in waves. "How are they, doctor?" Richard asked Dr. Martin, the attending pediatrician. "Stable, but still concerning. We'll have the toxicology results early tomorrow morning. Until then, we'll keep them hydrated and monitored. Their bodies need to eliminate whatever it is naturally." Richard ran a hand across his face. 3 days without proper sleep, without eating, unable to think of anything else. Cassandra arrived with a cup of coffee. "Richard, you need to rest a little. I can't." "Look at them, Cassandra. I know it's hard, but they're going to be okay. Trust me. How are you so sure?" "Because I know this type of intoxication. I've seen similar cases." And what Richard didn't know was that Cassandra was lying. She had never seen a similar case because she herself had created this situation. Susan arrived to visit the twins. As a longtime family employee, she had been authorized. "How was the night, sir?" "Bad, Susan, very bad. And Sarah?" "You haven't gone to visit her yet." Richard was uncomfortable. "After what she did, sir," Susan said softly. "May I say something?" "As someone who has known the family for so long." "Say it!" "I saw Sarah with those girls. I saw the way she cared for them, the affection she had. That woman would never harm a child. But the evidence can be fabricated, sir, but a heart can't. And her heart for those girls was pure." Richard became thoughtful. Deep down, he too had doubts. "Susan, do you think I should go talk to her? I think you should at least hear her side." Cassandra, who had been fiddling with her phone, heard the conversation and became alert. "Richard," she interrupted, "don't you think it's better to focus on the girls now? That woman will only make you more distressed." "Maybe you're right, but—" Susan didn't give up. "Sir, allow me to ask a question?" "Of course. Since Sarah was arrested, have the girls gotten better or worse?" The question hit like a bomb. Richard had never thought about it that way. Worse. Then isn't that strange? If she was really poisoning, then shouldn't they be getting better without her? Cassandra's heart raced. Susan's question was dangerous. "Susan," she replied with medical authority, "intoxication doesn't work that way. The body takes time to eliminate the substances. It's normal for them to get worse before getting better." "Ah, I see." But Susan didn't see it all. In fact, she became even more suspicious. "Sir," she whispered when Cassandra moved away, "don't you think you should at least talk to Sarah, just to be sure?" Richard looked at his daughters connected to the machines. "All right, but only to clear up this story once and for all." What they didn't know was that this decision would begin to dismantle 3 years of lies. Monday, 10 a.m. Richard sat in the police station visiting room, nervous and outraged, but also curious. When Sarah appeared, he was shocked by her change. In 4 days, she seemed to have aged years, thin, pale, with eye bags that spoke for themselves. "Mr. Ferraro," she said softly. "Sarah, how are the girls? Why do you care after what they say you did?" "Because I love them more than anything in this world." Richard studied her face. He didn't see malice. He didn't see lies. He saw real pain. "Sarah, explain one thing to me. If you really love my daughters, why would you do that?" "Because I didn't do it, Mr. Ferraro. I swear on my mother's soul that I would never harm those children." "But they found evidence that was planted by Dr. Cassandra." "Sarah, that's a very serious accusation." "I know, but it's the truth." Sarah recounted everything. The patterns she and Susan discovered, the tampered bottles, the way the twins always got worse after the medication. "Mr. Ferraro, your daughters only became agitated after she gave them the medication. You saw it yourself on Thursday." Richard remembered. It was true. When he didn't give the medicine, the girls improved. "But why would Cassandra do such a thing?" "I don't know. I just know she is doing it." "Do you have any way to prove it? From inside a cell? How?" Richard left the police station, his head reeling. Sarah's words made sense, yet they were so serious that part of him didn't want to believe it. Tuesday. The toxicology report back at the hospital he found Dr. Martin leaving the twins' room. "Doctor, how are they?" "Curiously, they are a little better today. The fever is down 1 degree. "Really?" "Yes. If it continues this way, we might be able to remove some monitors tomorrow." Richard grew pensive. The girls were improving at the hospital, away from any medication from Cassandra. "Doctor, can I ask a technical question?" "Of course." If someone was giving a substance to keep babies agitated, would they improve when they stopped receiving that substance? "Doctor." Martin frowned. "It would depend on the substance, but yes. If it were a stimulant, for example, they would gradually calm down once they stopped receiving it." "And how long would it take?" "About 2 or 3 days." "Why?" "Just curious." But it wasn't curiosity. Richard was starting to put the pieces together. At that moment, Cassandra appeared in the hallway. "Richard, how are my little patients?" "Better." The doctor said the fever went down. "That's good," she replied, but her expression did not match relief. "Cassandra, can I ask you a question?" "Of course." "What kind of medication were you giving the girls at home?" "A natural sedative." "Why?" "The doctor said they might be improving because they stopped receiving some substance." Wouldn't it be the opposite? Cassandra grew nervous. Each case is unique, Richard. You can't generalize. But you just said you knew this type of intoxication. I do, but every system reacts differently. Richard realized her answers were not adding up. Cassandra, did you bring any medication to administer today? I did, but I'll talk to Dr. Martin first. What medication? A vitamin supplement to aid in recovery. Richard didn't respond but decided to observe more closely. Tuesday, 8 a.m. Dr. Martin called Richard urgently. Mr. Ferraro, I need to speak with you. Did something happen? The results of your daughter's toxicology tests have arrived. Richard felt his stomach clench. And they have amphetamine in their blood. Amphetamine is a very strong stimulant. In babies, it can cause exactly the symptoms your daughters presented. Doctor, where could this have come from? Only doctors have access to pure amphetamine. And by the levels we found, the application has been done regularly for about 2 months. Richard felt his legs weaken. 2 months. That's when Cassandra started treating them. Who is Cassandra? The family's private doctor. Dr. Martin became serious. Mr. Ferraro, I must inform you that we will notify the authorities. This is child poisoning. At that moment, Cassandra appeared in the hallway. Richard, how are my little patients today? Cassandra, he said in a controlled voice. The doctor wants to talk to you. With me? About what, Dr. Martin? Doctor, I'm Dr. Martin, head of the ICU. I need to clarify some points about the treatment you were giving the children. Of course. What points? We found amphetamine in their blood. Cassandra paled but tried to cover it up. Amphetamine? Impossible. I only gave natural sedatives. Mom, do you have the prescription for that sedative? I do, of course. She rummaged through her bag but took longer than normal. How strange. I think I forgot it at the office. Doctor. Martin continued. The amount of amphetamine indicates regular application for 2 months. Can you explain this? It must have been the cleaner. She was the one drugging the children. But the cleaner has been in jail for 5 days, and the level of amphetamine in the blood indicates a recent application. Cassandra was speechless. Doctor, I will need you to cooperate with our investigation. Investigation? Child poisoning is a serious crime. The police will want to speak with you. That's when Cassandra realized her world was collapsing, but she still didn't confess. She still tried to defend herself. This is a misunderstanding. I am a respected doctor for 15 years. That's precisely why it's more serious, Dr. Martin replied. Richard, who had listened to everything in silence, finally spoke. Cassandra, look me in the eyes and tell me the truth. Were you giving my daughters amphetamine? Richard, I would never. Look me in the eyes. Cassandra tried to hold his gaze but couldn't. I can explain. Then explain. But instead of confessing, she tried to flee. I need to get the documents from my office. I'll be right back. You are not going anywhere, Dr. Martin said. Hospital security has already been called. That's when Cassandra understood there was no way out. The confession Tuesday, 2 p.m. In the hospital security room, Cassandra sat between Richard, Dr. Martin, and 2 police investigators. She still tried to deny everything. I never gave those children amphetamine, she insisted. Doctor, one of the investigators said, we have the toxicology report, we have the father's statements, and we have your constant presence in the house during the period of intoxication. Coincidence? Do you have any explanation for the amphetamine in the baby's blood? It was the cleaner. The cleaner doesn't have access to medical amphetamine. Do you? Cassandra was silent. Richard couldn't take it anymore. Cassandra, for God's... Sake, stop the lying. My daughters almost died. I didn't want them to die. The sentence slipped out before she realized it. It was the first crack in her story. So, you admit you gave them something? the investigator asked. Cassandra realized her mistake and tried to backtrack. No, I meant that nobody wanted them to die. That's not what you said. Yes, it was. Richard stood up, furious. Cassandra, you're a doctor. You know that lying in a criminal investigation is worse for you. I'm not lying. Then explain why my daughters only got better when they stopped taking your medicine. They didn't get better. Yes, they did. On Thursday, when I didn't give your medicine, they slept all night. Was that a coincidence? And here at the hospital, without the medicine, they are improving every day. Cassandra was cornered, but still resisted. Richard, you are very stressed. You're not thinking straight. That's when Dr. Martin intervened. Doctor, we have the hospital security cameras. You were seen administering something to the children last night during the shift change. Cassandra's blood ran cold. What cameras? The ICU has 24-hour monitoring. We want to know what you administered at 3 a.m. Cassandra tried one last lie. It was saline solution. They were dehydrated. Saline solution doesn't need to be hidden from the nursing staff. Why didn't you inform them? Cassandra had no answer. The investigator leaned forward. Doctor, let's make this easy for you. We know you administered amphetamine. We have proof. The only thing we want to know now is why. Cassandra looked around the room. Richard with hatred in his eyes. Dr. Martin shaking his head. Investigators waiting. She understood it was over. She began, her voice trembling. Say it, Cassandra, Richard whispered. At least you owe me that. I did it because... The tears began to flow. Because I love you, Richard. The silence in the room was absolute. I've loved you for years, ever since your wife died. And I thought if I took care of the girls, if I became indispensable to them. You poisoned my daughters for love? Richard whispered, incredulous. It wasn't to hurt them. It was just so they would need me, so you would see I was important. Important? You almost killed them. The dose was small, calculated. I'm a doctor. I knew what I was doing. And when Sarah managed to calm them down, then I had to increase it a bit. She was going to ruin everything. Increase? You increased the dose of drugs in my daughters out of jealousy. Cassandra was sobbing now. I love you so much. I've waited years for a chance. Richard stood up, trembling with rage. That's not love, Cassandra. That's madness. It is love. Everything I did was for love. Love doesn't hurt innocent children. I didn't want to hurt them. I just wanted you to love me. The investigator signaled his colleagues. Doctor, you are under arrest for attempted murder and illegal practice of medicine. As Cassandra was led away, still screaming that she loved Richard, he remained in the room, utterly destroyed. Doctor, he said to Dr. Martin, I need to go get someone. An innocent person who is in jail for a crime she didn't commit. Go. Your daughters are safe now. And for the first time in months, Richard knew it was true. Wednesday, 10 a.m. Richard was at the police station, dealing with paperwork and bureaucracy. Even with Cassandra's confession, releasing someone from jail was not simple. Mr. Ferraro, the delegate explained, Mrs. Miller will be released today, but the case against her will only be officially dismissed in a few weeks. And can she be home in the meantime? Yes, she can, and about compensation for moral damages. I'll take care of that later. Right now, I just want to get her out of here. At 11:30 a.m., Sarah finally walked out of the cell. 5 days that felt like 5 years. She carried a plastic bag with the few belongings she had when she was arrested. When she saw Richard in the hallway, she stopped and stared at him. She didn't smile, didn't show relief, only tiredness and a deep resentment. Sarah, Mr. Ferraro, you're free. Cassandra confessed everything, I know. The delegate told me. She was poisoning the girls. You were right from the beginning, Sarah laughed, but there was no humor in it. Yes, I was right. But you believed her for months and didn't believe me for a single day. The sentence cut Richard like a blade. Sarah, I know I was wrong. Wrong? She shook her head. Mr. Ferraro, you destroyed my life. My own mother said I was dead to her. It was on TV that I'm a baby poisoner. I'm going to fix all this. How? How are you going to fix 5 days of hell? How are you going to make my mother love me again? Richard had no answer. Mr. Ferraro, Thank you for getting me out of jail, but now I just want to go home and try to put the pieces of my life back together. And the girls? They miss you. Sarah stopped at the police station door. How are they? They're getting better every day. Without Cassandra's poison, they're becoming healthy. That's good. Sarah, please come back to take care of them. I can't. Why? Because I don't trust you anymore. And she left, leaving Richard alone on the sidewalk, understanding that winning back her trust would be much harder than he imagined. First month, the cold relationship. After a week of insisting, Sarah finally agreed to return, but with strict conditions. I'll come back, she told Richard at her doorstep, but not as a cleaner. And I won't live in the mansion. I'll take care of the girls during the day and return to my house every night. That's fine. What about pay? I want double what I was making before. It can be triple. And you stop trying to talk to me about personal matters. We are employer and employee. That's it. In the first few days, the relationship between them was frosty. Sarah arrived promptly at 7, cared for the twins with all the love in the world, but treated Richard as if he were invisible. Good morning. Good morning. Did the girls sleep well? Yes, they fed at 5. Thank you. And nothing more. The twins, on the other hand, flourished with Sarah back. It was as if life had returned to normal for them. They slept better, ate better, and smiled more. But Sarah wasn't well. Richard noticed she had nightmares. Sometimes she screamed while sleeping on the living room sofa during the girls' nap time. Other times she froze when she heard a police siren. Sarah, are you okay? I'm fine. You look like you haven't slept. My nights are not your problem, sir. One afternoon, a reporter showed up at the mansion gate. Can I speak to Sarah Miller? Sarah went white as a sheet. I won't talk to the press, she whispered to Richard. Leave it to me. Richard went out and spoke with the journalist. When he returned, he found Sarah trembling in the bathroom. They left. What if they find out where I live? What if they show up at my mother's house again? Richard saw she was having an anxiety attack. Breathe slowly. No one is going to bother you. How can you guarantee that? Because I'm going to hire security for you. I don't need charity. It's not charity. It's my responsibility. I put you in this situation. It was the first time Richard took real blame for what happened. Second month, small changes. The routine remained tense, but Richard noticed small changes. Sarah was still cold with him, but sometimes she forgot and answered a question more naturally. How was the girls' weekend? Lily is trying to crawl. She keeps trying to drag herself across the rug. Really? Isn't she a little too young? Every baby has their own time. She's curious, just like you. Sarah realized the conversation had moved past professional boundaries and returned to her cold demeanor. I'll prepare their baby food now. One day, Richard came home and found Sarah crying in the garden while the twins slept. Did something happen? Nothing you need to know. Sarah, you're crying. Something happened. I went to the market this morning and everyone kept staring at me. An old woman told her grandson I was the woman who poisoned the baby. Richard felt his chest tighten. I'm sorry. Sorry won't help. The damage is done. I'm going to do a TV interview. I'll explain everything. And you think that will help? That people will stop looking at me like I'm a monster? Richard didn't know what to say. Sarah, let me help. You've helped enough. That night, Richard called a known journalist and scheduled an interview for the following week. If he caused the problem, he would try to fix it. Third month. Public apology and forgiveness. Richard's interview had a good impact. He told the whole story, took the blame for believing Cassandra's lies, and publicly apologized to Sarah. Sarah Miller is an honest, hard-working woman who was the victim of a criminal doctor. I made the mistake of doubting her when I should have trusted her. I publicly ask for her forgiveness. Some newspapers wrote articles about the case, showing the other side of the story. Gradually, public opinion began to shift, but at home, Sarah remained distant. I saw your interview, she commented one morning. It was nice, but it still doesn't change what happened. I know, but it's a start. That same month, something important happened. Mrs. Santos showed up at the mansion. I want to talk to my daughter. Richard called Sarah, who grew tense upon seeing her mother. Mom, I came to ask for forgiveness. Sarah didn't reply. I saw his interview on television. I understood you were telling the truth from the beginning. You didn't believe me when I needed you most. I know. And I'm very sorry. Sorry won't bring back the days I spent alone in jail. Sarah, please, you are my daughter. I love you. You said I was dead to you. Mrs. Santos began to cry. I spoke foolishly. I was angry, I was ashamed. But you will always be my daughter. Sarah also cried, but she still couldn't forgive. I need time, Mom. How much time? I don't know. I just know it's not easy to trust anyone right now. 4th month, a shift in perspective. Sarah finally agreed to have lunch at her mother's house one Sunday. It was the first step toward family reconciliation. How are the girls? Mrs. Santos asked. Beautiful. Lily is already crawling and Chloe is trying. And does the boss treat you well? He does. I have no complaints. Sarah, can I say something? You can. I can see in your eyes that you like him. Mom, there's nothing wrong with that. He's a good man and he's single. He's my boss and I'm an employee. So what? You are an honest, hard-working, affectionate woman. Any man would be lucky to have you. Sarah was silent. For months, she hadn't thought of herself as a woman, only as the twins' caregiver. In the mansion, Richard was also changing. He started to observe Sarah more, not just as the girl's nanny, but as a person. He saw how affectionate, dedicated, and intelligent she was. One afternoon, he found her teaching Lily to clap. Come on, little one, clap your hands. Lily laughed and tried to imitate, but her small hands didn't quite meet. She's learning fast, Richard commented. They're very smart, Sarah replied. Both of them, just like their mother. Sarah stopped playing with Lily. They are not my daughters, but you care for them as if they were. It's my job. Is it just work? Sarah looked him in the eyes for the first time in months. What do you mean, sir? That I see how you look at them, how you care, how they smile when they see you. That's not just work, Sarah. And I see how they look at you. To them, you are a mother. I can't be a mother to children who aren't mine. Yes, you can. A mother is someone who cares, who loves, who is present. Sarah nervously fiddled with Lily's toy. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know that I admire you very much. It was the first time Richard subtly showed romantic interest. 5th and 6th month, the truth and the spark. Relationship between them slowly warmed up. Conversations that began about the twins ended up on personal matters. Sarah, can I ask you something? You can. Why are you so good with children? Sarah was silent for a moment. Because I lost one. What do you mean? 2 years ago I was pregnant. I lost the baby in the 4th month. Richard felt a pang in his chest. I'm sorry. That's why I identify so much with your daughters. They are the age my son would have been. My son, he was a boy. He was going to be named John. For the first time since she returned, Sarah looked directly into his eyes. That's why it hurt so much when you thought I would harm them. After losing my own child, I would never hurt someone else's child. Richard remained silent, understanding for the first time the real dimension of the pain he had caused. In June, on the twins' 6-month birthday, Richard organized a small party. He invited Mrs. Santos, Susan, and a few close friends. Thank you for including me, Sarah said when he handed her the invitation. Of course. You are part of their family. During the party, Richard watched Sarah playing with Lily and Chloe. She smiled genuinely for the first time in months, and he realized he was in love. At the end of the party, as Sarah was leaving, he walked her to the gate. Thanks for the party. The girls loved it. Sarah, what? You look beautiful today, smiling. She was flustered. Thank you. It's been a long time since I've seen you smile like that. It's just that the girls make me happy. Only them? Sarah looked at him, understanding the question he hadn't asked. Good night. Richard. It was the first time in 6 months that she had called him by his first name, without a title. 7th month, the final barrier. Things definitively changed between them. Sarah continued to go home every day, but their conversations grew longer, more intimate. Richard, can I ask you something? Of course. Did you love your wife? Why do you want to know? Curiosity. Richard thought before answering. I learned to love her, but it wasn't love at first sight. What do you mean? The marriage was arranged by the families, but over time I developed affection and respect. And when she died, I thought I would never feel anything for anyone again. And now? Now I found out I was wrong. Sarah's heart raced. Richard, can I finish? She nodded. I found out it's possible to love truly. To love someone for the person they are, for the way they care for others, for the strength they possess. I don't know where you're going with this. I'm getting to the fact that I've fallen in love with you. Sarah fell silent for a long time. You can't say that. Why? Because I'm afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid to believe and then find out you're lying. I would never lie about this. You've lied about other things before. I never lied, I was just mistaken. And I learned my lesson. What lesson? That trusting someone is betting on the person, even when everything seems to be against them. Sarah felt her eyes well up. Richard, I've fallen in love with you too, but I'm so scared. Of what? Of being happy and then losing everything again. You won't lose it. How do you know? Because this time, I'm going to fight for you. For us. 8th month. The vows in August. When the twins turned 8 months old, Richard finally declared his true feelings. They were in the garden, watching Lily and Chloe try to stand up, leaning on the table. They're talking too, Richard commented. Lily said Mama yesterday. It was for you, wasn't it? Looking at him, Sarah smiled. It must have been a coincidence. It wasn't. She recognizes you as a mother. At that moment, Chloe babbled, Mama, looking directly at Sarah. Both of them, Richard whispered. Sarah couldn't hold back the tears. Richard, what if it goes wrong? What if it doesn't work out? And what if it does? She looked him in the eyes. Do you truly love me? I love you more than anything. Even with me being poor, money doesn't make anyone better or worse. You have something money can't buy. What? A good heart. And that's what matters. And your family, your friends, what will they say? They'll say I'm the luckiest man in the world. Sarah finally smiled. All right, what? All right, I accept trying. I accept seeing if we can work out. Richard pulled her into a careful embrace. I love you. Sarah, I love you too. A year later. In the garden of the same mansion where everything began. Richard and Sarah married in a small emotional ceremony. Lily and Chloe, now 1 year and 4 months old, ran around the garden on their first uncertain steps. Mrs. Santos was in the front row, proud of her daughter. Susan had been promoted to head housekeeper and received a raise. Richard's family accepted Sarah after getting to know her better. During the ceremony, the twins made everyone laugh when they shouted, Mama! In the middle of the vows. I think they approve, the priest commented, smiling. After the party, when the guests left, the new family gathered in the girls' room. They've grown so much, Sarah whispered, watching the twins sleeping peacefully. And they'll grow up knowing they were loved since they were little by a woman who chose to be their mother. Chose? Yes, because a mother isn't just someone who gives birth. It's someone who chooses to love. Sarah smiled and snuggled up to her husband. Thank you. For what? For giving me the chance to be a mother and to be happy. Thank you for teaching me what true love is. And far away, in a women's penitentiary, Cassandra watched the news that showed the wedding. She had lost everything she wanted. Richard, her profession, her freedom. But justice was served. In the mansion, Lily and Chloe slept, knowing they were loved. And Sarah finally understood that sometimes the family we choose is stronger than the family of blood. Love had won, and this time, forever. Gostou dessa história? Cassandra teve o que mereceu ou foi pouco? Me conta nos comentários.